Hereby call to order the regular meeting of the Ojai Planning Commission for Wednesday, October 19th, 2022. Who's in back? Brian or? Oh,
Sherry.
James is here. Oh, Sherry's here. Sherry, could you call roll, please?
Chair Quilisi,
Here?
Commissioner Trent,
Here.
Commissioner Murphy,
Here.
Commissioner Starkweather,
Here.
Vice Chair Bennett absent.
Absent, right. Okay, if you'll all follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ooh. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public communications, the time set aside during the Planning Commission meeting for members of the public to discuss items of city business other than scheduled agenda items. And matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the commissioners, but by law, we cannot take action unless it's an emergency motion. And we may generally refer them to staff if you bring up an issue, or we may put it off to a new meeting. So, is there anyone here present, or Sherry in the waiting room, who wishes to speak on an agenda item other than 210 Del Norte, or the movement of text from Article 5 to Article 6 of Title 10?
No one.
Okay, then we'll move on from public communications. Our consent item is the minutes of the regular meeting of the Planning Commission, October 5th. Any commissioners with refinements to those minutes?
No.
I move to accept.
Very
I'll
good.
second.
Second by Mr. Trent, thank you. Any discussion? Sherry, call roll on item number 1, please.
Quilisi,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Starkweather.
Yes.
Thank you all. Disclosure of site visits and ex parte contacts. We have one site in play tonight, 210 North Del Norte, excuse me. Mr. Starkweather?
I've been a little busy lately, and I didn't make it over there. Sorry.
And no ex parte contacts
Oh.
away from the site?
No, I've never been to the site, and I don't know the people involved.
Okay. Commissioner Murphy?
I visited the site and with the owners who gave me a tour of what they are requesting be done.
Okay,
And I walked by the site and no ex parte contacts.
very good. Yet my wife and I walk by that site regularly. I'm familiar with it. No ex parte contacts. Thank you all. Next is our public hearing item, the design review permit for 210 Del Norte Road. Staff?
Thank you, Chair Pelosi and Commissioners. So this is a request. Thank you. This is a request for a design review permit for a two-story accessory structure, detached from a two-story single-family residence. The first floor is a garage with an attached mudroom / storage room, and the second story is an office building, or an office, not an office building. The office has a deck and stairs that go down to the rear yard area. So the Planning Commission is charged tonight with review and determination of the design review permit because the project entails a two-story structure. A single-story accessory structure in a residential zone would not require approval of a design review permit. The addition to the garage, I already told you about the first floor and the second floor. The project site is close to 40,000 square feet, and the current lot coverage is 7.5%, and they're allowed 35%, so lot coverage is not an issue. The maximum allowable height is 25 feet, and the proposed height for the accessory structure is 19 feet, which matches the existing two-story house. It's 19 feet and 6 inches. The design standards of the municipal code include continuity, scale, architecture, and compatibility for all projects. The colors and materials of the proposed accessory structure match the existing residence. The walls are San Simeon La Habra stucco with dark aluminum window and door framing, and a I tried to pronounce this earlier.
Some foreign word.
A foreign word, I think it's French. Black asphalt shingle roofing, which also matches the existing structure. And there's a trellis-like structure attached to the front of the garage for shading for the vehicles. So the property is large, and the existing house and accessory structure are centered in the middle of the parcel. The residence that's adjacent to the south is located comparatively forward to their parcels, so therefore not just directly across from this residence, and the one to the north is more in line with this residence. However, the proposed accessory structure is on the other side. Based on the project description and layout, staff is recommending the Planning Commission approve the request as proposed. We do have the applicant here, and we have a slideshow to go along with their presentation if you wish for that. Thanks.
Okay, your slide presentation or the applicant's?
No, the applicant's slide
Okay.
presentation.
Any questions for staff?
One question, because you had the percentage of lot coverage. Do we have any regulations about percentage of impervious surface on a property as opposed to the physical building?
We do have a percentage of pervious surface, or certainly for driveways anyway. Do you want to answer that, Lucas?
It's 50%.
It's 50%.
50%? What do you mean?
That would be the. that
Say
would be-
again, the limit is 50%, including driveways,
That-
et cetera?
That would
Or-
be the front yard area,
Driveways, sidewalks.
but that's the front yard area.
Yeah, there's
It's
no
not the entire-
sidewalk
but
in
that's
that
not the
area.
entire site.
Yeah. It's just, the only rule we have is for the front yard.
There's no standards for the rear yard or sides.
So the further back the house is, the more impervious surface you could have.
Theoretically,
Yes.
Okay,
As far as the backyard,
I-
you have setback requirements, of course,
yeah,
correct.
so
All up for review,
that's,
though.
that's going to be a limit.
yeah, okay. Just wondering.
However, if it's a slab or a deck that's below 18 inches, then it can encroach into that setback.
Okay, that doesn't count.
It does count, it does not count for lot coverage
Yeah, okay.
or impervious surface, because that's just the front yard area. That is limited to 50%.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Well, then, let's hear from the applicant. Do we have the applicant here? Please introduce yourself and talk to us, sir.
Yep. Hello, my name is Giovanni Ordaz, representing Mark Whitman. And I will start with a brief project description, and then we can proceed with the slideshow. So the project description for 210 Del Norte Road consists of a new detached two-story garage at 210 Del Norte Road. The detached garage will fit 2 cars. There will be wall separation with the garage, with a storage location at the back of the garage. Above on the second story will be a home office used for work or leisure, with a second story deck to admire the backyard scenery and landscaping. The detached garage will have a trellis-like shade structure attached to create added shade to the parking area to the driveway. The building's materials will match the primary's residence style and fenestration to keep the projects cohesive as a design. We are proposing a new concrete ramp up to the primary residence existing covered patio for an easier walk and better aesthetic look while approaching.
Sir,
Yes,
take it easy.
sorry,
Slow
sorry,
down.
my first one here.
Yes, I understand, and that's
Sorry.
always what you do your first time out.
Right,
But we've got plenty of time, and unlike the public speaking on this issue, you are not time limited.
okay,
So just take your time,
okay, perfect.
be comfortable.
Yeah.
So you said something about a number, I thought I heard you say 15, that can't be right. You didn't say 15 cars, did you?
No, I said 2 cars.
2
Sorry,
cars, okay.
Sorry,
I
I'd be a
misheard you. I did. My mic's on, yeah, I thought.
Is my mic on?
Yeah, mic's
Okay,
on.
perfect.
Pull it closer.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I'll go ahead and finish this last statement. And it is, there will also be a proposed driveway that will wrap to the back of the property to the new detached garage. And that's the final conclusion of the description, short brief.
Okay,
And here is the proposed street view next to the detached garage, and this is what the existing residence looks like. It's just There's no grass, that's just a filler for now,
Yeah.
yeah.
Be nice
Yeah,
if we
it's a lot
all
of
had
but
grass.
That's not
Yeah.
prohibited.
We were gonna
wanted
raise
here
that
now.
issue if there was grass.
Right, yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah,
I could tell by the
Okay,
pictures.
that's the proposed new garage on the right there?
yes,
Okay,
pretty far back, hidden and attached,
yep.
matching that roof line. So here you can see the proposed footprint location with the driveway wrapping around to the back with a 6-foot new driveway gate. And then up here, if you can see all around here, that's where that new ramp that we're proposing so that you can walk up towards the existing deck that is actually covering right around that area.
Mm-hmm.
And that is.
That's a ground, that's at grade, that walkway?
Yeah, there's actually, it steps up a lot here. As you can see, there's these steps that come up. It's almost like a split level house. It splits a couple
Mhm.
times. So up here, yes, you do have to take a couple steps here. Currently, there's 3 steps and 2 steps there. So
And
we're
that's-
kinda add that ramp just for.
And that's
easier.
separated from the stairway that takes you from the office down to ground level?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
And that pretty much sums up the site and everything that that comes to my mind here. And here is the proposed first floor plan of the detached garage. As you can see, the owner's intended to use parks. He has a couple classic cars that he wants to park and keep shaded in there.
Mhm.
And then the back room, we're still deciding on details and how they want to use it as a mud room. But for now, it's just storage, as is, with the walkway right to the back of it, just for access, easy access up to the stairs as well to get to that deck. That will be on the next slide as well.
And that stairway is kind of U-shaped and it takes you over the top of that wall?
Yes, so it creates almost like a bridge that you can walk under here.
Mm-hmm.
To create some kind of shade, and that's what the owner wanted, some kind of deck to kind of stand out there and just look towards the main residence and admire, I guess, maybe just sit there and relax,
Sure.
you know.
Okay.
And here is the second story. As you can see, that's where that kind of deck bridge merges into that U-shaped stairs. And yeah, the second story is pretty straightforward, just office space with an exterior deck. Yeah, nothing too fancy in there.
And then, yeah, the deck over the storage room.
Right.
Okay.
And at the end of the driveway there, where it just kind of goes into the green space.
Right.
What is that?
So this is the driveway going up to the existing landscape. It's all currently just like dirt and plants.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm not sure if he wants to hire a landscape architect in the future to kind of dress up that area.
Mhm.
But for now, he wants to have another space to park his back together, his cars as well.
Okay, gotcha.
Sounds like a tricky place to park a car,
Right.
all the way around, and then you gotta
Wow.
back out around a curve. But
Kind of-
Yeah, we didn't think about that actually. You have to reverse all the way back out.
if it works for the owner,
Yeah. And here you can see the grade changes and the elevations and how it's all kind of working. It kind of steps up a lot. There's a lot of, it's not just flat. So, let's see. So here is the front approach, is what you would drive up to and see with that trellis and those windows and the roof lines matching to the primary residence. And if we move down here, that's as if you were driving up that new driveway to the side towards the south, if I can remember correctly. And with a new 6-foot gate here as well.
mm-hmm.
And then over here would be as if you were standing in the backyard towards your detached garage structure and gate. And then that's the back side of the property, towards the property line, looking towards just the angled portion of the detached garage.
Right.
And here we have a couple sections just showing how this is sitting on the grade at the time. Here it's pretty flat, and we're gonna have some retaining walls holding up all that grade and moving up towards the deck, or not the deck, I'm sorry, the existing covered patio.
I wanted to ask you about that upper drawing. I understand windows. I don't know what that grid work is.
Oh, so that grid work there is.
That's
the-
big windows?
That is actually the garage doors. There's
Oh,
not specified,
okay.
yes.
This is
So
the-
you're looking,
okay.
yeah, you're looking towards, on the
Okay.
backside, towards the inside of the garage.
Great.
There. And here you're cutting through the opposite way from east to west, looking towards the garage where that storage would be, that deck, as well as the proposed office with vaulted ceilings.
Residence in the background to the left? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And here are a couple of existing photos where we're proposing the location of that detached garage. So here is that dirt area, And right here is the driveway approach of where you would see that.
Where
front
you
elevation.
have that arbor in the
Yes.
existing photo.
Yes.
Are you saying that's where the gate's gonna go?
So no, this is actually a little like maybe 10 to 15 feet away from where the actual proposed garage footprint would be. So
Oh,
this is along the,
That's part of where
Property line.
the driveway's wrapping around
yes,
behind?
right.
Okay.
Right. And then the next slide will have a couple more existing pictures where, so here is that area where that garage will actually come up above there. And this is another angle, just standing a little closer to that as well.
Okay.
And next, we have just some renderings of what the proposed project will look like, just to kind of wrapping around the model and showing how it's interacting with the primary residence.
And the primary residence is single story, correct?
Yes, single story but split level, so it comes down and it comes up a couple times.
Yeah.
So it's a little everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, I got you. So the roof lines will be the same, it's just because it's dropped down, it'll be,
Right, it looks a lot more taller and,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot more predominant, but they are the same ridge line and roof heights as well.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes, sorry.
Please go ahead.
We have a driveway at existing garage. Was that driveway staying the same size, or is it
Yes, the
expanding?
driveway is gonna stay, the existing attached garage?
The one that's to the garage, there's a picture we have of the back, looking at the driveway, called E, driveway at existing garage.
Right, okay, so that's looking, I think, towards the primary residence, and that existing garage is at ground level, but they are gonna replace it just to use it as a game room and not
No,
really.
no, I'm talking
park
about the driveway, I mean, what you call it, the parking area, I guess you'd say. It looks pretty enormous to me.
Yeah, it
I'm
is a
just-
lot of parking space there, but I don't know if they get enough shade, and I think all the trees under there, they might damage the owner's classic cars, which he wants to protect.
Oh,
under.
they have classic cars, okay.
Yeah, he has two classic cars, which he's planning on just parking those inside of that.
Inside the
Yeah,
garage, okay.
correct, and
Currently parked in the existing garage, I guess.
yes, existing and if they need to on the driveway, because there's a lot of space on that driveway currently.
Yeah, it is a big driveway.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Murphy?
I have no questions.
Trent?
no, I think I'm good. Thank you.
I have none either. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, thank you.
You did fine.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll get better.
All right. Is there anyone else here present or in the waiting room who wishes to speak on this item?
No.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Then we will close the public hearing and come back to the commission for deliberation. Commissioner Trent, your thoughts?
Well, initially when I was looking at it, I was concerned with the height and just the surrounding residents, but in walking that area, it looks like the height is on par with some of the other residents and
And the ground slopes down
Slopes
toward
down.
Ojai Avenue, yeah.
exactly, so that wasn't too much of a concern.
Okay?
I was a little concerned about how the neighbors would perceive this addition, but after viewing the property and all of the trees
Yeah.
therein,
Well insulated.
it really is hidden.
Yeah.
Can't see the neighbors
You cannot.
much at all. Yeah.
I have a question for Lucas. So I'm reading this design standards. So we're supposed to look at the continuity with the streetscape regard to setbacks. So we're looking at landscaping. We're supposed to look at the height transition between neighboring buildings. So that's the other part of the house. And then architecture that piques interest and is opposed to monotonous forms and elevations. And of course, I know all about that. That's a joke. Character with regard to preservation of views and retention of natural forms, and then the final one's compatibly with the density and intensity of surrounding uses and project materials, colors, textures, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So are we looking at anything beyond this structure? Because everything else is already there, I take it.
Yeah.
So that's all we're looking at?
It's more a matter of, does this structure fit into the neighborhood
Yeah,
where
that's
it's
the big
Yeah,
proposed?
piece.
okay.
Does it fit into the?
I just want to
is it-
clarify,
is it
because
out
we
of
got all these
place?
other things that don't seem related to that, and,
Well, they would come more into play if it were an empty lot.
yes,
and a
I
new
see that.
house.
I understand that, yeah. My comment, it's not relevant, but I would say this is monotonous form, but it's got elevation changes.
And it matches the house.
And it's not that's not our business to decide architectural design, so. That's my opinion, anyway.
I just want to say that, I mean, it is your business as the planning commission to ensure that the design is, one, compatible with the existing structures. And also, there's some harmony with the surrounding neighborhood as well. That's more of a general statement. Like, for instance, let me just use a hypothetical. The applicant comes in and proposes a 3-story building, and the building looks like Taj Mahal.
Or chrome and glass.
Yep.
Yeah.
We worked through that, what you just described, which areas are suddenly incompatible, right? I'm using only an extreme.
Yeah.
Here, I think it's pretty straightforward. They've done really what they needed to do in terms of
Yeah.
ensuring that it has that modern feel to it, right?
Yeah, it looks similar.
Yeah.
That's true. I don't disagree with that. And I think the elevation change does give it some variety, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, and I think those are important pieces. It doesn't go too far, right? But
Yeah.
it goes far enough for someone to say, yeah, I use this term all the time. It's not in the code. Squint test. Does it pass the squint test from a design standpoint? When you're squinting at it, does the design still hold shape and figure? I think it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why our recommendation is for approval.
And
Yeah.
just a little historical note, because I had to look into this once. In years past, there was a 5-member planning commission and a 5-member architectural review board. They were combined. That's how the planning commission at one point became 7 members. But so these things that sound like they're tending a little toward the aesthetic side, if you will,
Yeah.
actually are a carryover from the architectural review board. And so while I think generally we all would consider, I don't like that color paint, or I think you need a little more decoration around your porch kinds of things as being edging toward frivolous as a planning commission statement, the rest of these things, avoiding monotony and being compatible with the neighborhood and all of that, is still very much in our purview.
Yeah, I get that.
And in this case, I think it matches the neighborhood very nicely. In fact, if you walk along the street, you'll hardly see this new structure. And I don't know that any of the neighbors will ever see it, because there's so many trees around. And so I think it's a fine-looking project, and I would vote for a motion to approve it, if someone were to make such a motion,
I'll make a motion.
to approve item 2.
And I would, why I'm making that motion, is you look at the picture of the building, it's actually more interesting than the drawing.
Oh, yes, the
mean,
drawing.
the drawing is boring.
Well,
But the picture of the building is really interesting, wood and
These
so forth.
architectural apps tend to fill in big spaces with blank stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
So looking at the picture makes me feel much better about the design.
When you go
So
by
we
it.
have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Second. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Sherry, would you call the roll then on item 2, please?
Quilisi,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Starkweather.
Yes.
You have your approval. You still have paperwork to do with the staff, but go and God be with you.
Yes.
And you did fine.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can tell Mark Whitman we said you did fine.
yeah.
Thank you all. Let's move on then to item 3, a work program item. And is Alex going to move up to the table? All right.
Yeah, let's bring Alex up here. He's up to the big boy table now.
He needs a name tag, though.
He's
He
our
does. We'll
future planner.
Turn it around and we'll just put right on
we'll
there.
get him one next time. This is a public hearing item as well, so so just keep that in mind here for tonight. Oh, interesting. I printed out the wrong thing. All right. So good evening. My name is Lucas Seibert, Community Development Director for the City of Ojai. The item you have before you tonight for all the audience, more so for people in TV land. The item before you tonight is like the chair had alluded to, a work program item for the village mixed-use zoning designation change from commercial and manufacturing classification to a special purpose zoning district. Why are we here? Well, we're here because in 2016, when the STRs was coming forward as an ordinance.
That's short-term rentals for the
Short-term
folks
rentals.
in TV land, yeah.
Thank you. I use acronyms sometimes too much. At that time, it was identified by the community and council concerns in regards to how the VMU and the residential aspects within that zone were acting potentially in conflict with STRs. That then brought forward a larger conversation about how to address that situation. And that's when kind of the bigger conversation started over the next couple of years of relocating it from one specific area within the code, which would be Article 5, where it currently lives, into Article 6, where it's being proposed, which is the special purpose zoning district. And in that conversation, what ended up happening is there was a larger conversation with this body as well as the city council. And at that time in 2021, I believe it was August, it was decided to add this to the work program and start really kind of looking at it further and see if there was something to this. And really, it's a lot simpler in terms of what we're talking about here, but the practicality of it does seem to be in line with what we're talking about here tonight. And this body has seen this item twice before, so this is the third time tonight, and we're looking for action as well. And really, for this body, staff's not looking for changes to the VMU. We're looking at simply relocating the village mixed-use zoning district from one area to another, taking every single bit and piece, the development standards, the use categories, the design pieces that are also within their description of the VMU, all of those bits and pieces, the notes that are applicable to it, all those pieces get moved from Article 5 to Article 6. And that's what we have
No
before
change to requirements.
No
just-
change.
Just placement within the code.
Correct. This is, you could call it a house cleaning, if you will, housekeeping. And really, that's what we're looking at here tonight, trying to keep it simple. But we've already had some of those tougher conversations in terms of, well, what does this mean? And what we've come to the conclusion of is really it is a house cleaning. We looked at some other pieces to the puzzle, but ended up coming to conclusions that really the change from Article 5 to Article 6 is just, the conclusion is it's housekeeping at this point.
Lucas, are we being asked to recommend it to the city council? Is
Yeah,
that the
so
process?
what you have before you is a draft resolution, and with that draft resolution is an exhibit, and that is a draft ordinance. The city's attorney's office will be looking at it closer as it moves forward to city council. But anytime that you're making changes to Title 10, the first step is to come to this body. Well, the first step is to actually apply, but the second step is then to come before this body.
Yeah. Only the city council can change the wording of the municipal code, so we make recommendations. Yes, sir.
Couple of questions. So in back when we were discussing this before, you were gonna look to see whether by moving it from the commercial zone, I guess it was, C1.
Commercial manufacturing zone.
Manufacturing,
Right.
to its own separate subdivision
To
under
the
special
well, to the special
districts.
purpose, yes.
Yeah.
So it'll be acting.
Whether there would be any conflicts, any things that had to be changed, you didn't find any?
Nope. The one area that I was potentially concerned with was the noise ordinance. So we took a quick look at that section or chapter.
That's in
and
Title
found,
4 or somewhere like that.
I think it's Title 5.
5, okay.
Yeah, and found no conflicts there. It does mention it, but the way it's referenced is consistent with its change.
So I had one question. Going to the last paragraph on page 2, I didn't quite understand that first sentence. The VMU zoning district is applied to areas suitable for the development of mixed-use residential and commercial land uses. I got that. Yet does not manufacturing. I got that. But then it says, or the development that supports pedestrian or bicycle transportation modes and community interaction. Isn't that what the VMU is supposed to be doing?
That actually looks like an error in
Oh,
in the
okay.
in the wording. I think because you're right. VMU is meant to be a transitional period,
Right.
and
So
certainly a
should we
transitional zone.
Correct that in the
Should-
record
should
somehow?
Well, this is the admin report. It's not a legal document.
I know, but someone reading it might
Resolution,
think
yeah.
that we're approving something that doesn't do what we want it to do.
I think
which
we
is
can
support
cut that off.
pedestrian.
Well, I almost-
Or development.
Yeah,
Maybe it
because
doesn't
the
have it.
reality is that it does support. So I think what's meant to be said here is the opposite of.
Okay, so
It should be showing a distinct difference between
so
the
it should
first part of
say,
that
yet,
sentence.
yet does not mention manufacturing, but does include in development or something
That
like that?
supports
Or
pedestrian
you
and
could
bicycle
pick up.
Or make a
transportation.
new
not
sentence.
mention manufacturing, put that at the end of the sentence.
That's true,
I
okay.
agree.
That would work.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because it threw me off.
No, you're right. I think that's certainly something important, and we'll catch that as we move forward. Well,
Okay.
depending on what the commission decides tonight to city council.
Okay. None of that language is in our resolution, I take it? The ones I just flagged?
I don't think so.
Okay. I didn't notice it.
Let me
but-
look.
I don't see anything like that myself, but, I might miss something.
I don't have a copy of the code right here, but what is the official title of Article 5? Is it Commercial and Manufacturing Zoning District or Districts?
Oh, is it plural or singular? I think it's plural. Let me look here.
I would imagine it's plural. That was something that confused me when I read it. Because
Yeah, I've
we-
got confirmation it's plural.
It is plural, okay. Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I don't think
Okay,
I move we recommend the change. I can't make a motion?
it's a public hearing.
It's a public.
Oh,
hearing.
we're still in the
First-
public hearing, sorry.
We finished, we finished questions for staff. So we'll open the public hearing. There is no applicant other than staff in this case. Well, certain city council members recommended that we look into this, so they're applicants, sort of. But we don't need to hear from them. Sherry, is there anyone in the waiting room that wishes to speak on this item?
No.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing, come back for deliberations, and now it's
I'll
appropriate.
renew my motion to approve the change from taking the VMU out of the commercial and manufacturing zoning district and putting it in the special purpose zoning district. Is that correct,
Right.
Mr. Planner? Okay,
Title
that's
10,
my
Chapter
motion.
2, moving from Article 5 to Article 6.
You got more details?
No.
I'll add that to mine? Okay. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Very good. Any discussion? One piece of discussion. I had written a note to Alex, and I had thought that I had found a few places where something had been taken out of Table 4, but not put in Table 2.4, not put in 2.6, or taken out of 2.5 and not put in 2.7. So just for grins, before the meeting, we grabbed a couple of examples, and one, I think Alex would say, maybe he conflated two things together and it might be two different listings in 2.6, and the other one I misread, and it actually is in 2.7. It was taken out of 2.5, put in 2.7, but not under the same subcategory, like there's open space or recreational use or
Oh, you're talking about the
services
tables?
in the
The tables
tables
themselves,
themselves.
okay.
So we kind of tied on that, but I would just ask that you take one more look and just make sure that everything that came out of 2.4 goes into 2.6, and everything that came out of 2.5 goes into 2.7.
I will amend my motion to that effect.
Now, that's that would be part of staff's due diligence after the
Okay,
fact
okay.
anyway, I
Yep, as it
think.
moves forward.
So,
The resolution is the piece that you're taking an action on.
right, but the
Which-
tables are in the resolution.
Correct.
They're an exhibit or an
That's a
attachment or
recommendation
something,
moving
right.
forward, but still massageable. If there are
Yeah.
inconsistencies with how the code currently reads in terms of how we're moving it over,
Right.
we got to make sure those are seamless.
Exactly, okay. So any other thoughts? Any discussion?
I think I'm good.
All right, Sherry, let's have a vote, roll call on item 3, please.
Quilisi,
Yes,
Trent,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Starkweather.
Yes.
terrific.
Oh.
Moving right along, item 4, priorities of Planning Commission, Community Development Department, and lo and behold, we have taken something off the list, Lucas.
What was that?
Last item,
I
Title
would
10
like,
update.
I would like to formally identify that we are taking an item off the list.
Oh, wow, we're down to, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Strike
5,
through.
6, 7. Only 8 left.
Only 8?
Well, wait till our
That's easy.
committees come back, our task
Yes.
forces with stuff.
Seven left out of 8.
They're on hiatus at the moment.
I want to just, there's only one thing that I want to report regarding the priorities, and that is, I thought I had a meeting scheduled with the housing consultants last week, and ended up being that,
Oh, this is Ramey?
yeah, no, it's Veronica Tam and Associates.
Oh.
But I'm meeting with them this week now. It just, I had some conflicts. I wasn't able to meet with them. So we're scheduling it for this week. And I'm looking forward to diving into the points that we need to correct or justify before we take it to city council and then back to HCD. But man, looking at the itemized list of things that their HCD is asking for, they're being very strict in terms of
Change
additional
for
language
change's
and
sake.
describing things in further detail. It's
Oh.
borderline nitpicky, to
Yeah.
be quite honest, because I don't know that it's really going to change the document itself. It's just a matter of, I don't want to get into the pieces
No.
of it, but
The rock isn't shining
Look,
enough, go home and polish it
it's
some
kind
more.
of the way that I'm seeing it. But regardless, we'll do a red line, we'll get it to city council, and then move forward. So I thought we were done, and I was going to make the hard argument that we just meet with HCD and do that, but Veronica Tam and Associates are saying, no, if you do these things, we'll just play by the rules. I'm like,
They have a bigger
and the
hammer,
attorney's even
do
agreeing
what
with
they
me.
want, yeah.
So anyway, that's
Give
where
a
it's-
response to Bill Miley's email.
Tree ordinance?
He said, "It seems with the continuing drought,
Mm.
that placing a
did see
current
that email
working
earlier today.
priority on the tree ordinance / water efficient landscaping guidelines would be smart, especially adding a section or revision, excuse me, on watering oak trees in a drought." We have this arborist advice several years ago. Not only up to date, this ordinance, well, anyway, I think he's saying I can't read it, but publicizing it into the Valley residents. So not only updating the ordinance, but publicize it to the Valley residents. That's the way I read that.
Let's,
I don't,
yeah, I think it's a fine thing. I think we should get our 2 ad hoc committees to report back, and then maybe we'll form a third to go talk about trees.
okay, sounds good.
That's a good point. There are already 2 ad hocs. As a future, and they're a part of the priorities, as a future item that we could add to the list is updates to these ad hocs. Either do it every 2 weeks or do it monthly.
It's gonna have to be monthly.
It's
this
very,
first time.
well, it's a very similar piece to how we've been handling Historic Preservation Commission, who created 2 ad hocs with the historic district stuff.
Yeah.
They've been
Oh,
working on.
and we typically have a place in our agenda for commissioner reports. We can add a line that says ad hoc committee reports as appropriate.
Yep.
Sure.
And Sherry, if you can add that to the agenda as a standard item,
Yep.
then we'll
have an
we'll
initial
deal with
meeting.
it that way.
I think that's great.
When am I gonna have time for that?
CEQA guidelines. Is it staff's general thought that we need to add something to the state level CEQA guidelines?
Yes, definitely.
Is there a thought to what needs to be added?
Yes.
But you're not there
Gonna
yet.
withhold that?
So,
Well, I don't want to give, I've been working on it off and on for the last year to 18 months. So I have a pretty extensive revisions to it.
so last night, we
But-
had some debate about what they actually were, between one particular lawyer and our lawyer.
Oh, okay.
That, I don't know
Well,
if you
they're from
heard that,
2000
but it
they're
was.
from 2002, and they're extremely old and outdated. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the conclusion that I drew from. Are there bits and pieces that we can use? Yes. Are there bits and pieces that are far outdated, like traffic?
You
That
you
yes.
mean bits and pieces of, because
Of
when
the-
I
of
read
the
CEQA
guidelines
guidelines
themselves.
or
Well, no,
CEQA
it's-
procedures in the
it's
code.
different than that.
It refers to the California Government Code and the Public Resources Code,
Public
I
Resources
think,
Code, yeah.
and specific sections
Yep.
therein, and that's kind of the definition of our guidelines.
But within there, it requires each city to have their own guidelines and to update those guidelines on a regular basis.
So there was some discussion, not that that issue should be talked about, but about the environmental review that was like, oh, that's way too old, even though they got it approved, and I didn't know whether that had any relevance to our, how
I don't
we deal
wanna-
with this.
You're talking about a specific project that I don't necessarily want to discuss.
I'm just saying the general concept.
But the concept behind when projects receive environmental clearance, there isn't a deadline or an expiration, especially for EIRs. There is no deadline. Now, there could be refreshers to that if there's changes made to the project. That could certainly come forward. But
And
in
the one
terms of an
thing that was kind of
expiration-
interesting on that, this was, I'm not going to talk about the specific project, but this particular attorney made some point about these broad changes in the landscape, the climate change, blah, 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 was supposedly, that's changed the CEQA evaluation. And so I don't have
Yeah,
the
in
rules in
terms
front
of-
of me, so I couldn't know whether
Right,
that's accurate or not, or what.
Right. Without commenting on any particular issue, I think what's going to come in front of the Planning Commission is the local guidelines, and then what's been discussed, at least in terms of past Planning Commission and City Council meetings and stuff, is the more state guidelines and what constitutes a substantial change.
Yeah.
Which would possibly require an update to an environmental document like an EIR or mitigated negative declaration.
Those are state guidelines that you're referring to.
Right, and the state guidelines, as Lucas mentioned, also require the city to update its local CEQA guidance.
So
and the
I-
Attorney General's always is
Yeah.
constantly
As
releasing
planning
guidance as
commissioners,
well.
no, we're not all lawyers, although one of us is, or an old lawyer
Which
anyway.
one?
I remember when we were having one of our previous ones, I started reading the CEQA guidelines because Lucas made a reference to them. You might recall the particular one because I asked a
You went
question
into the
about it.
Into the state
And it's
law.
like, wow, this, I need to look up case law to figure out how would you interpret. Is there something that
you're going down a rabbit hole with that kind of stuff.
Is there
I'm not
something
kidding.
we should have as guidance? I've seen But God, you look at those guidance books, they're like 500 pages long. Is there something that would give us,
The Cliff Notes, is there?
is there a Cliff Notes for planning commissioners
Like a
or
sequel for
something?
dummies or
We,
something?
we mostly run across CEQA in that there are a half a dozen or a dozen different sections of exemptions for projects.
Yeah,
It's
and that's
more
what
than
I
a
was
dozen,
looking
but
at,
yeah.
their interpretation of the language there. You know, I could see how, as a lawyer, you could argue all kinds of things, one way or the other. And I was like, wow, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to investigate it, but
In general, do the city CEQA guidelines, can they be more restrictive or less restrictive than the state?
I don't think they can be less restrictive.
Yeah, you can't be less restrictive. Typically, you're providing guidance for those projects, and can you be more restrictive? Yes. You can take whatever bits and pieces you use as the benchmark, and then hone that down to something either more strict or say, yeah, we're going to use that benchmark.
But they would be clear as they apply to our codes so that it'd be easier for an applicant or to
I believe
understand.
there's even a reference to consistency with the general plan
Yeah,
in terms
I
of
see.
how that gets addressed.
Of course, we can't change the CEQA guidelines and have them consistent with the general plan. We're in the middle of changing the general plan.
There is the dilemma now, isn't it?
All right, is there anything else on the list that you wish to discuss tonight, sir?
That's it.
Okay, let's move on to item 5, our future agenda items. I see November 2nd, we have a regular meeting coming up,
Yes.
and Nociola's back with their outdoor,
That outdoor
Dining
patio
area?
patio dining area, yeah, that was part of the COVID outdoor dining areas. We have lots of updates for that one. We've been meeting with the business owner, not the property owner, and we'll certainly bring something back.
excellent.
It's not necessarily going to be good news, but it's going to be news regardless.
And 214 Bryant Street is back just because this was the date certain that we picked to continue
Nope.
it to?
No, we continued it off calendar.
Oh, so this is a real looking for a decision?
Correct.
So you got the
Ooh.
We have the
background
information.
facts.
So
You were
we
going to
have-
say
we have
evidence.
data
have
to
the
look at?
information.
Yeah,
We have the information, and there'll be attachments for that as well.
Good.
Terrific.
And we're covering each of the pieces that the commission had brought forward as questions and looking for responses to.
That'd
so.
be good.
Super,
Good.
super. The usual good staff work.
Well, thank you. We hope so.
Okay, and then,
November 16th is going to be Gables, and then Love Social Gables. I've received everything that I need to review that. It was kind of a tug and pull, but we are there now.
don't want to go
So-
down a rabbit hole, but I recall there was something about a financial side to that. And what sorts of things state money would allow to be spent on, or things, is that part of the data that you're going to bring?
Yep, I've asked for a more comprehensive evaluation from the applicant, as opposed to just a kind of vanilla approach to it, which then causes staff to guess. And that's one of the reasons why when this item came forward, I was assuming certain things, brought it forward assuming those things, and then come to find out that the property owner was saying, none of those assumptions are correct. So I said, well, it looks to me like we've got some problems with some assumptions, don't we? So that's why it got continued, and we've done, I would say, the homework necessary.
Okay?
And
And Love Social, this was a date certain, I think, that we,
Yeah, before we go to Love Social,
Oh, okay.
Gables, raise your hand if you're going to have to recuse yourself for that item.
However, I have a question. When you did more research on the subject, did the availability of the project's land come into your view?
Mm-hmm.
It should.
Yeah, there's lots of bits and pieces that'll be unfolded in the staff report. Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah.
Not getting into any detail, but yeah, it's information that was not available to me and to staff But when I started asking those questions, then that information came to light. So
Okay.
I don't want to get into details. I don't want Epi getting mad at me. So anyway, next is Low Social for the 16th, and that was scheduled to come back on the 16th.
You feel like you've had fruitful discussions with them since our last meeting?
The two parties came together. Yeah.
They formed an agreement, I'm
Yep.
told.
So you have the amplified music. This is not including the back area and the.
Right,
Ye-
so just up front.
Well,
Yeah, it's
There was something weird. They were supposed to come back at some point within. Was it 90 days with a?
90 days was the Nociola. So they had the 90 days, and then we
No,
set
but
that
didn't
for
we have
November
something
2nd.
90 days with the back patio area?
The back patio area, I think I had asked that we not do that. So I don't think that one actually has a timestamp, but I can
Has
just
no
tell you,
time?
I can just
Okay.
tell you that I think we've reached.
I thought we continued it for 6 months. We didn't go for a whole year.
No.
We went for a whole year?
we talked
There was
about-
discussion on it, yeah.
We talked about allowing it, but then reviewing it periodically and monitoring it and stuff like that.
But I thought the
Also
neighbors were going to get
asked
together
staff
about
to
the
work with
buffer.
it. Yeah.
Which they did.
They did.
Oh, so that's part of
and
this?
we were part of that conversation, yes.
That's going to be part of this?
No, not part of this, because that's the garden area. They're calling it the garden area, or that
I see.
that outdoor area. But
That's going to come back later.
separately.
Okay.
They need to come back independent because they're two separate
Okay.
actions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Although it does kind of make sense to keep them, bundled together. But the reality is that each of them will have their own conditions and monitoring components to
You got
each
the
one.
same parties, but,
I agree.
maybe different.
Yeah.
Same property, same parties, but we
Looking
got
at the
different
pending
issues. Okay.
future items, it looks like Mora's got a full plate.
Yeah, and I mean it spills over. There's more items that just aren't really close to being complete yet. And I'm not even showing you the advanced planning or some of that code work that's being done behind the scenes. You just saw some of that tonight with VMU. Alex is working diligently on getting those
He's a good man.
those up and running.
Man.
So we'll see some of those in the near future as well. We'll be working them in.
Okay?
But just so you know, I think we're out of the log jam. Remember, I was always talking about log jams. I think we're getting out of those right now. Getting some of these moving is
It's
good.
nice to have a couple cases to decide each meeting and not have to continue them.
Well, and it's nice that not all of them are controversial.
That helps a lot.
Oh, it's sometimes that's nice, right?
Okay. Any other questions on future agenda items?
Last night, when they were discussing the project that has already been approved here and it's on to the city council, that some of that project's going to come back to us for review? What part of the
I don't think I
South
can talk-
Montgomery was one? What part would we end up having to review?
Design. That's all I could say.
Pardon?
Design.
But which properties?
South Montgomery.
Just South Montgomery? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
The other, it's all existing
That's what I
structures or
thought, yeah.
rehabbing existing structures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
World University could come back. That's a part of it as well, if there are changes to the exterior of the building.
I see. Okay.
Be crazy to try that now.
That was, yes.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the
Yeah, that's
details
fine,
of it.
that's fine.
Sorry.
It's all good.
I could.
Okay.
I
Um,
don't know if anybody watched my 30-minute presentation last night.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
No, I want to say it publicly because I just was very impressed with your performance and the manager's performance. And the attorney was incredible. His ability to think on his feet and answer questions in a very clear way. And actually, I thought the applicant's attorney was exceptional too. I mean, I just thought the presentations were,
They were long,
they were long.
Long, but
But it was
really
a complicated
clear.
thing that needed to be
Clarifying.
cleared about. And to actually have someone in the audience get up and say they came into the meeting against it and they listened to the presentation and changed, that just almost never happens. So
That was big.
Yeah, that was good.
that's something to be proud of, I think.
good job.
Thank you.
Okay, director's report. Anything else you wish to share? You told us about another meeting with Tam.
Yeah, I've got that meeting with Veronica Tam. I think that's it. I'll have more. I don't have any more updates to the general plan update yet, but I anticipate that I will soon. So at this point, it's kind of in limbo. We're meeting with them on a bi-weekly basis, so we're making progress. It's just there's some other pieces that we're putting together right now. Housing element is one of them.
Okay. Commission member reports, anything that you want to
Well,
share?
I was at the,
Shoot you if you do that.
which one?
About what you're going to launch into.
No. I'm not going to launch anything. No, I just said I was at the MAC meeting, Municipal Advisory Committee,
Good.
to meet with C. Carbajal. So I was there, and it came up that, we were supposed to give a report, and I didn't know that I knew I wasn't assigned to it, but I don't know that anybody was. But I did give them a report about our committees, task forces. And I said, the borders between us are kind of almost not.
They're not fluid, but they're not
They're pervious.
clear either, so.
I said, so if any one of you would like to join us on either one of these committees, we would welcome your participation.
Members of the public are free to join
and
these
the other
committees, yeah.
one I brought up, because I had raised this in the first place, was the whole issue of the level of service for roads that got overturned because of the subjective standard, so we don't have that restriction on whether they could have affordable housing infill in the
It's now
unincorporated areas.
Vehicle miles traveled
Yes, and
standard instead.
And the standards for vehicle miles traveled are much lower for affordable housing or small units. Anyway, so I brought up that I wish they would go back and look at their housing element, because their housing element had 0 sites in Ojai because of that rule that was actually illegal, because the state had passed change. So they listened to me, but I said, I think they ought to revisit and find some sites, because affordable housing is not a problem just in Ojai, it's a problem in Monterey Oaks and Miramonte and other places as well. And those are dense places where you could do infill.
Well, I guess the county, the unincorporated county, has its own RENA number? Yeah.
But they didn't give any for the Ojai Valley. 0.
Interesting.
Because of that rule, that when they passed their general plan, they amended the Ojai area plan, in which they weren't supposed to. And that plan had, under LOS, it had an exception for affordable housing. But we eliminated that section for Ojai. So we essentially said, if you violate LOS, which is level of service, which means any more traffic on 33, most places just widen the lane, but here we can't. So it meant that essentially for 30 years, we've blocked all housing, affordable housing, in the unincorporated areas by that rule.
Yeah, let's talk more offline. I want to kind of unpack that, but not right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Any other commissioners? All right.
Good, thank you.
We don't have a city council liaison here this evening. Do you know who that is? I don't know. Sherry, is there someone out there from the city council?
No.
Okay.
Bill was up as late as I was.
Then there,
Last night, did it?
yeah, that was over 5 hours.
We got at 11:30.
Sounded like a planning commission meeting.
It was a deeper dive.
Yeah.
Deeper dive.
And there being no other obvious business before the commission, then, at 6:59, we are adjourned.